Okay, so before today we were doing GCFs. GCFs do not go away. You still, pretty much all the time when you're factoring, you always have to check for a GCF. And you're going to notice that. Like if you look at number 2, it says, do they have a GCF? GCFs are not going away. So we are still doing GCFs. But now we're talking about grouping. So grouping is what you do when you have 4 terms. And it's going to make a lot more sense on why we call it that once we get started. So you're always going to check if they're in order. Do they have a GCF? And then here's your rules for grouping. Cut them in half if there's no GCF. So cut them in half, take out the GCF. If there's no GCF, you have to take out something, so you'll take out a 1. Okay? And then the parentheses should match. So that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to skip number 1. We're going to do that one last and look at number 2. Okay, so number 2 is it's an exact problem from your practice yesterday. Okay? Because I want you to see that they go together. So this one's actually already grouped for you. This is a degree of 0, because remember when we're looking at degrees and they have parentheses like this, we just look at the front. This is a degree of 1, so it's not in order. If you want, this is a positive 5, so you can just write plus 5, x plus 3, and cross this guy out. And now you have it in the right order. Okay, so remember yesterday we talked about, well, the 2 terms, because there's 2 terms here, they both have an x plus 3 inside parentheses. So we can take that out because that's their GCF. So when we take out the x plus 3, when we take it out, what do they have left? Well, what's left there? Plus, yeah, so we have y plus 5. There's your answer. Okay, so pretty much what this is already grouped for you. So our goal is to get our 4 terms to look like that. So let's look at number 3. So first things first, is number 3 in order? Well, this is a degree of 1, 2. This is a degree of 1, 2. This is a degree of 2, and this is a degree of 1, 2. Do I need to change the order? No, it's a degree of 2. They're all degrees of 2. You don't need to change anything. Okay? Do they all 4 terms have a GCF? No. Okay, this has A, C, this has A, but no C, and this does not have an A. So right away, we're good. None of them, they don't all have the same letters. And then these don't even have a coefficient. They do have 1, but you don't have to take anything out. So no GCF, they're already in order. So now we go straight to the third one, which is cut it in half. Now, when I cut it in half, you'll notice I go between the second term and the symbol, the plus or the minus. If you draw your line through the plus or the minus, oftentimes you think it's a minus, but it was a plus sign, but you drew your line over the plus sign, or you made your minus look like a plus sign and you forget. So just be careful. And now you find your GCF for each half. So what's the GCF of the first half? A. And when I take that A out, I'm left with 2C plus D. Because they both have an A, right? It's what they have in common. And they don't have anything else in common. This one has a 2, but this one has no number, or a 1. This one has a C, this one does not have a C, this one has a D, that one does not have a D. So the only thing they have in common is the A. Now, what does that second half have in common?
The C?
Yeah, how many C's can we take out?
1.
1. So is it going to be a positive C or a negative C?
Positive.
Positive. So I'm going to put plus C because we're still writing it as an expression. Okay, so we have 2, and here we subtract 2 minus 1 is 1, so I still have 1 C left on the inside. And this cancels, and I have plus D. Now is it set up a lot like number 2? Yes, when my parentheses match, that's like your quick check. If your parentheses match, then you're good. So my parentheses match, that's my GCF, so we take it out. And when I take it out, what do I have left?
A and C.
A what?
Plus C.
Plus C. There's your answer.
For the second row half, you didn't cross out the
Well, because this was c squared over c, so I had to subtract. So they both didn't cancel. I mean, the squared kind of canceled, but that was it. It didn't all the way cancel. That's why I didn't cross it out. Okay, and the reason you don't write this 2c plus d twice is because it's your GCF and you took it out. Okay? And then that's what's left. So let's look at number 4. So first thing they're asking, are they in order? Yes. So I like when there's only one variable because it's super obvious when they're in order, right? Okay. Is there a GCF? That's question 2. Yes. What's my GCF? 2x. Okay, so we know we can take out a 2 and we can also take out an x. Okay, if you're unsure of how we know that, we can look at our smallest number, which is 2. 2 goes into 4, 2 goes into 4, 2 goes into 8, so I can take it out. Also, every single term has an x, so I can take an x out. Now, which exponent, is the smallest is 1, so I can only take 1 out. So I'm going to divide everything by 2x. And that's what I'll have left. So 8 divided by 2 is 4. And then I subtract my exponent. So 4 minus 1 is x to the third. Plus 4 divided by 2 is 2. 3 minus 1 is x squared. Negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2. 2 minus 1 is 1, so x to the first power. And then both of these match, so they cancel. And when everything cancels, when you're dividing, it's 1. Now, I like to take my GCF and put it at the bottom and then kind of forget about it, because I don't want it to throw me off when I start doing these steps. Okay? So now it's in order. I already took out the GCF, so now we go to step 3, which is cut it in half. So I'm going to pick a different color. I'm going to cut it in half. What's my GCF of this left side?
2x.
2x squared. Because remember, we have an x cubed and an x squared. They have 2 in common. So 4 divided by 2 is 2. When I subtract, I only have 1 x left. Then here, they both cancel. And when everything cancels and you're dividing, it's 1. Now the second half. The first term is what? Is negative. So I have to take out a negative. And what's your GCF there? 1. Yeah, there's nothing other than 1, so you have to take out something, so we have to take out a 1. Now, the nice thing is when you take out a 1, it doesn't change anything, but since we took out a negative, both of these negatives become positive, and it becomes 2x plus 1. Do our parentheses match?
Yeah.
Yes, so that is my GCF, so I get to take it out. And when I take it out, what do I have left?
2x squared
2x squared
minus 1.
minus 1. Because the first term was negative, so I had to take out a negative. And then there's nothing that goes into 2 and 1 other than 1, and you have to take out something. So that's your fourth point. If there's no GCF, you have to take out a 1. So we took out a 1. Okay, so let's start looking at number 5. So first things first, is it in order? No. Okay, so let's pay attention to the degrees. This is a degree of 2. 1, 2. This is a degree of 2. This is a degree of 1. And this is a degree of 3. So all I need to move is that last one to the front. So I have 2ay squared plus 4y squared plus 2az plus 4z. Okay, now it's in order. Point number 2, does it have a GCF of everything? Yeah, 2. Does it have any letters in common? No. First off, when all your numbers are even, right away you know you can at least take out a 2. Okay? So we're going to take out the 2. And when I take it out, that's just me dividing everything by 2. And I get AY squared plus 2y squared plus AZ plus 2z. And don't worry, I don't have a bunch with this much work on your practice. I just wanted to do some with this much work so you understand them. Okay, so again, when I have a GCF, I like to put it at the bottom and ignore it so it doesn't throw me off. So it's in order. I already took out the GCF. Now we cut it in half. So what's my GCF of the left side? Y squared. And when I take that out, I get A plus 2. That's what's left over. What's my GCF of the right side? Positive or negative? So I'm going to put plus Z. And when I take that out, I get A plus 2. Do my parentheses match? Yes, so that is one of my factors because that's the GCF of my 2 terms now. So when I took it out, what do I have left?
Y squared plus Z.
Okay, I'm going to go through one more with you really all the way, and then we're going to talk about number 1, and then we're done with notes. Okay, so look at number 6. Is it in order? No. What needs to move? Just the plus 2. Where does it need to go? To the end. So if you're like me and you hate rewriting everything, is it okay to just do this? If you want to. Now if that bothers you, can you rewrite it? Yes. So all I did was move this guy to the end because it was a degree of 0. This was a degree of 2, 0, 1, 1. So we had to move this degree of 0 to the end. Yeah, it has to be in order from highest to lowest. Now, does this one have a GCF of all 4 terms? No. So right away, it's ready to cut in half and get going. So I'm going to cut it in half. What is my GCF of the left side? Okay, and I'm left with y minus, well, when everything cancels, what does that give me? 1. And what's the GCF of the right side? Negative 2. So divide by negative 2, divide by negative 2, and I'm left with y minus 1. So do they match? Okay. Do they match?
Yes.
Yes. So what is my answer?
Y minus what?
Y minus 1, parentheses, 3x minus 2.
Perfect. Because we took out the y minus 1, and then our leftovers makes our second parentheses. Okay, so when you're done writing that down, I want you to look at number 1 for just a second on the notes. I'm going to go over it kind of quickly because it's already set up for you. It's already grouped, right? GCFs are already taken out. But I'm going to show you something that you'll see in just a second. So if you look, okay, first off, it's not in order. So this one needs to move over here. So when I move it over, I have this. Okay, well, my m plus 1 does match. So when I take it out, I'm left with negative 28m plus 14. This is on the notes.
Oh,
The ones we already did, yeah. It's the one we skipped. Yeah, because this was a degree of 1, and this is a degree of 0. Because it didn't have a letter. Remember, we don't look inside the parentheses, only in front. Okay, so what's wrong with that second set of parentheses?
it has an M in it.
Negative?
It has a negative in the front. What else?
Only one has a variable?
Well, that's okay. Does it still have a GCF?
Yes.
Yes. Doesn't 14 go into 28?
Yes.
So I can take out, first off, you should never have a negative in the front inside of a parentheses. You should have taken it out. So pretty much what this is telling me is that whoever did this problem didn't take out their GCF at the beginning. And that's a mistake that happens all the time. If you look at my answer key, it is a mistake I made. Okay? Because you get out of the habit of doing it because there's so many problems that don't have GCFs, and then all of a sudden you get to one that has a GCF and you don't think about it. You know what I mean? So what I want you to realize is you need to be able to notice that there is a GCF here. Well, first off, both of these numbers are even numbers, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, so on and so forth. When you have two even numbers, you can take out at least a 2. So if you have even numbers, you need to investigate and figure out what your GCF is. So I need to take out a negative, and I know 14 goes into 28, so I'm going to take out a negative 14. Now, order doesn't matter what I'm multiplying, so I'm just going to bring down my m plus 1 so I don't forget about it. And that leaves me with positive 2m, because the negatives cancel. 28 divided by 14 is 2. And positive divided by negative is a negative, and 14 divided by 14 is 1. That would have been my final answer. And my GCF should have been taken out at the beginning like we did on number 4. Okay? But I'm just going to I just wanted to show you what happens if you don't take your GCF out at the beginning. Does that make sense? Okay, there is one more thing actually I want to look at with you. Look at number 7 on your practice. Okay. Ask yourself if it's in order. No. It's like super out of order too. It's not just like one thing that needs to be moved. So what's the degree of my first term? First term. 4. This term? This term? This term? 1. So I need to put the term to the 5th power, the 5th degree first. So negative am to the 4th. Now my 4th degree, so plus 2m to the 4th. Now my first degree, so minus 3a, and then 0 degree, so plus 6. Now it's in order, right? Does it have a GCF? What's never supposed to be at the front?
The negative.
So when you have a negative at the front, even if there's no other GCF, you have to take out the negative. So when I take out the negative, the nice thing is when you take out a negative, it's super simple because you just make everything opposite. So when I take out the negative, this becomes positive. This becomes negative. This becomes positive. This becomes negative. And now don't forget to put your negative down at the bottom so it's a part of your answer. So if you didn't take it out, what would have happened, it was kind of like on number 1. You would have had that like negative at the front of one of your parentheses. Okay, and you're not supposed to have that. So when you take it out, you can ignore it and cut it in half. What's your GCF of your first half?
M4.
M to the 4th power. And when you take that out, you get a minus 2 left. What's your GCF of the second half?
3.
3. So when I take out the 3, a positive 3, right? I'm again left with a minus 2. So because my a minus 2's match, I get to take them out. And I'm left with m to the 4th plus 3. And don't forget that negative is still part of your answer.